So today I am going to show you how to make a digital photogram. And if you look at this image here in Photoshop, what I've already done is I've done the photographing using some objects that I thought had interesting shapes. So you want to look around the house for any kind of object that has edges that curve or something where the silhouette would be interesting. So these are some of the objects that I found. And I grabbed a piece of paper, but you could use a piece of fabric to create a neutral background, or you could clear off an area on a counter or a floor or a table and lay all your objects to create that neutral background. You want to photograph in a relatively bright area. I used a copy stand so my light is directly above, but you could put your stuff by a window, or you could even take your stuff outside on a sunny day and photograph it. And I basically photographed looking straight down at my objects. Um, that's my recommendation for starting. Although you could probably change up your point of view if you wanted to. And the first tool, once I save these pictures in my drive and download them, is I actually go to Photoshop or Photo P and I use the crop tool. So I'm going to crop in pretty tight around my neutral backdrop. And I purposely kind of cut my little lizard off the page here, so you can do some cropping like that if you want. I knew I would kind of crop off part of the things here, and I was okay with that. So now I'm going to click the enter button to make the crop, and there's my image. And so the next thing that I'm looking at is I'm looking at the adjustment layers, and I'm going to click on this symbol here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to invert this image from a positive to a negative with invert. So now I've got the negative. Looks like I still have some cropping to do here, I noticed on my edge. So try to make your edges clean if you can. Just a tiny little hair. And that looks good. Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work with something called brightness and contrast. Bringing up your contrast is going to make your darks darker and your bright areas brighter. So now I have a nice, like, rich, dark background for this stuff. It's up to you guys how bright you want to go. If I kick up my brightness a little bit, they start to glow a little bit more. And I'm going to work on some other tools to try to make this a little bit darker down here. So I'll close that out. So right now I've inverted so far. I've added brightness and contrast. I'm going to go back to the adjustment menus again. And this time I'm going to take curves out and play around with curves. So a general correction with curves is to make a gentle S curve. You can drag these, click and drag these points out. I'm going to actually make a brand new curve for the highlight areas in the upper right. This is going to be adding some more contrast. And then I'll drop a point down in my shadow areas in the lower left and drag it the other way. So now I'm really starting to get a contrasty effect, and it is fixing my edge a little bit. Although I kind of like this idea of light kind of creeping into the scene, so I think I'll leave it. So a basic correction is a gentle S curve with the curves adjustment. You can go a little bit more extreme if you wish. You do start to get some solarization of the image. The edges start to glow a little bit more. So I try to be careful with my curves, and I don't go too crazy with it, but you can. It just depends on what you want your results to be. So after I add my curves, I can keep this image full color. It kind of looks nice. It's like a black and white image, but has a tint of color to the objects. But if you want to do a true photogram like we would in a black and white darkroom, then you would go to your brightness and contrast. Oh, sorry, wrong one. By the way, you can right click and delete these if you make a mistake. What I want to do is choose either black and white or channel mixer. That will create a black and white image if you so choose to go that way. You can try the presets. Once I select one, I can use my arrows to scroll through all the different black and white presets to find a degree of black and white that I like. Now all my gray values are kind of shifting around as I choose. Um, in photograms, if you have anything that's transparent, you'll usually see the stuff inside the object. But if you have stuff that is more opaque, in other words, if light doesn't go through your objects, then you have more of a just a silhouette and an outline. So that's what this is kind of simulating here. Like light didn't go through the blocks, but we could imagine that maybe this lizard was transparent and light passed through it and we could see some of the detail on the inside. If you're in Photopea, you want to go to File, Save As. Photopea has the Save as PSD option, which you will choose here, but Photoshop, we could just do a Save As. And I'm going to call this Miss I Photogram. Actually, it's a digital photogram. And you can, in Photopea, your work will go right to your downloads folder, or you can save it to your pictures folder. And I'm going to just click Save. And now if it asks you to maximize compatibility, you can always say okay to that, but Photopea probably won't ask. Now I can actually drag that file if I go to my pictures, of which I have a real lot of. I can drag this image into a Google Drive window. Then I'll be able to add it to Google Classroom from there. And that's how you make a digital photogram.